Well, and a good Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? Yeah, it's Wednesday today. A good Wednesday, our 43rd day of our uh, Corona retreat. I wanted to start off by sharing something with you today. First of all, you may not know what one of my favorite television programs is, and you may be surprised to know that it is called Ink Master. It's a television competition of tattoo artists, and I just think their art is amazing, and the work that they do. Yeah, the hard part is the language, because it seems that rather crude language goes along with the art. But so anyway, I wanted to show you right away before I forget a tattoo from the show the other day. I'm going to do my best to show this to you because it explains kind of what I feel we are going through right now. This tattoo was done by an artist named Angel Rose, and I would love to have her make this available as a painting, a print. So I'm going to try to get it and show it to you, and take a good look at it, because I'm going to then try to explain what it means to me. So hold on, let me get it. I had it up in my computer. I want to be able to put it away. Okay, so here is the tattoo. And she's, oh, hang on a minute, get rid of my, she says it is, the meaning behind it was people, facing yourself. And I think that's something we're about today. And you can see that one of the image looks like a statue. The eyes are closed and it looks cracked, and that would be kind of, to me, that would be the material carnal part that we're working to overcome. Whereas the other figure is strong, looking straight forward. And so I was so impressed with that, I wanted to share it with you. And I hope it moved you the way it moved me, because I was like, oh my gosh, yes, there's me facing me, trying to overcome my hardened self as opposed to my best spiritual self. Well, I'd like to share also that I had a pretty good night last night. The first thing I did was I checked off every item on my to-do list. And that included the one that I've been resistant about, which was getting back to work on my books. One of my books I had to reformat so I could get it up on Audible. No, not Audible, Amazon. And it's my first novel. It's called Sour Grapes on Silver Platters. The original publisher I had made me change the name to Green Grapes. She didn't like the sour grapes aspect, but that's the heart of the story. So anyway, it just seemed so overwhelming. I was resistant to it because it required yet more learning. Sometimes I feel all I'm doing is learning. I'm learning new programs, new cameras. I'm learning this, I'm learning that. And that's a good thing. It's just sometimes it's kind of overwhelming. Therefore, we get resistant. Resistance is something we have to face, because there's times when it's wise to resist, and there's other times when we've got to let that go. And even in the Bible, it says resist the works of the devil and he will flee. And then it says resist not evil. What? It's situational. It depends on the situation. So when you have something that you really want to do, but it seems overwhelming, you have to stop resisting it and do what you got to do. Once I was on a roll, it was great. And I'd like to say I've already done, you know, a portion of time on the book today, so I was able to check it off. What are you resisting? Is there anything that you need to deal with so you can get done what you really do want to get done? You know, there's always a reason behind the resistance. We have to look for that reason and address it. Hence, my topic for today, which is the spiritual faculty of will, coupled with understanding, which we started talking about the other day. But before I get there, I'm not yet done with yesterday. I tend to prefer to sometimes look at YouTube as opposed to television because I feel like I have more choice in watching what I want to watch. Well, sometimes if you're watching a video, it just rolls into another video after it. And I had watched something and I was doing dishes, so I didn't have time to stop it or anything. Well, I'm so glad I didn't, because for me, it was divine order. Now, if you've got a paper and pencil handy, you might want to mark this down. I found a young lady, her name on her YouTube channel is Grackle, Grackle. Now, if you've ever been down south, at least to Texas, you'll see grackle birds. And they're blackbirds with a long tail, and you kind of watch them sitting on something and balancing themselves with their tail, and they are loud. Well, this is a young lady. She's apparently a college age because she kept talking about going to uni. She is English. But the show, the episode, whatever you want to call it, that she did was about World War II rations. She spent, it was 5 days living on a World War II ration diet. Unbeknownst to myself, I looked it up more later and found that there are many resources to look for regarding that on YouTube. And I wanted to share it with you, though, because as we get to start feeling, you know, like victims and sorry for ourselves and everything, facing the way that people have lived through difficult times before is a wonderful way for us to stay strong and to be inspired. Now, there's a second show that I watched a long time ago, and it's a series, and it is called The Supersizers Go. And it isn't supersizers. I don't know why they use that terminology, but what they are is it's a food critic and an actual comedian comedian, female, and they go back in time. So they have an episode called Supersizers Go Wartime. I think this is something, especially maybe if you've got teenagers or, you know, preteens, you want to watch this with your kids, that they will see we are not at a point where we have to ration. Could we get there? I don't know. But we have to stop thinking we're the only people that have ever suffered, you know, and our suffering to them would be luxury. So I recommend Grackle with her World War II diet and the Supersizers Go Wartime. That was just called Wartime. And you can also, if you go on YouTube, you can see they've got a section on living on U.S. rations during World War II. So they're just ways to get more information and not live in an illusion that this is, you know, we are the most put upon people, or this is the most put upon time. We get strong through it. People grow strong in the crucible of adversity, as one of my heroes said. Okay, all that is why I chose the spiritual faculty of will today. What is will? It is called, we call it the executive power of the mind. The executive power decides, I will, I won't. And it is that power for all the ideas. Like I decided yesterday, I put my power of will to work. And I said, I will work on that book today. Even though I feel overwhelmed, I will work on it. And once I got working on it, it was so easy. I wondered, why did I let myself put it off for so long? Why did I let that sense of overwhelm block me from doing something I really wanted to do? We all have free will. That is a gift of God. Now, let's take a couple things I've said about being here, why we're here, and our free will. You should be able to finish this sentence if you've been we are here to, I hope you said learn, because we are. And in order to facilitate our learning, we were given free will. Imagine if we did not have the power of will. Imagine if we didn't have free will, we would be puppets. We would be leaves in the wind blown around by whatever is going on. Now, just because we have free will, I got news that a lot of people today maybe need to hear. Just because we have free will does not make us free from the law of cause and effect. We may have free will to jump off the roof, but the physical law of gravity will probably make that not a very pleasant experience. Right now, we have the people that are protesting to get back to work. We have people being forced back to work that don't want to go, that are afraid, and I certainly don't blame them. Where is our free will there? We have the will for our own selves, what we want to do, what we want to risk. We don't have the right to negatively affect someone else. So we have to understand that our gift of free will is to be used with wisdom and understanding. Now, the physical center for the spiritual faculty of will is in the forehead, right next to understanding. They're like twins. They work together. So the understanding can take facts and work them out and come up with conclusions, and then the will, the executive power, decides whether to act on the facts or not. Let's put all the blame on me right now so I can go back. Easier to explain than pointing fingers at anybody else, although that will come up today. Okay, so I had the will to work on my book or not. But I also knew in my heart, I want to get that book done, okay? So I had the will, I have that inner child, that petulant little child, inner child that lives in me, and didn't want to do it. It's like, I don't want to do that right now because I don't understand it, and maybe another day, and I really don't have the time. Well, I could fill the time with anything, you know. But I put my spiritual will. No, I think my book is important. I think it's a great story. I think it should be out there where people can read it and learn. You know, in my novels, I slip metaphysics into the story, and people don't even realize they're learning spiritual principles as they read the book. What about your free will? How are you using it? Are you using it at the spiritual level, or are you using it at the very human level? So we all have will power. How we use our willpower is up to us. We can be willful, or we can be willing, or we can be weak-willed. Ooh, I think that's the worst. I read in the book, The 12 Powers of Man, which is, again, it's a great book. I'll turn this around on YouTube so that you can see the title in the book. Let me see if I marked that section. No, clearly I didn't. No, it said that a person should never submit their will to another person. It said personality, not person, but personality. And even our own. So when we know, we have an inner knowing of what's going to help us and what's not going to help us, we have to not submit to our lower self, but to the higher. You know, I always talk about doing the math. You can be a mathematician. You can add, you can subtract, you can divide, you can multiply. Or you can take a step higher and be a metamatician. What does it mean to be a metamatician? It means to use in your ciphering the spiritual principles as we come to know them. And we can go right there to the law of cause and effect. So, here's the metaphysics, or the mathematics, if you're doing metamatician. What you have is, okay, this is cause, this is effect. So you say to yourself, let's say you're having, let's say you bounced a check, okay? Wow, that caused a bad feeling inside. You may have felt like a victim, you may have felt anger, but until you know how did that happen, you can't prevent it from happening again. I tell you, if I had a nickel for every time I ever, gave a piece of my mind I couldn't afford to a bill collector or a bank because I had an overdraft fee, basically I worked for a bank for a while on the other end of that phone and got yelled at all day about people's overdraft fees. It's real hard to tell them, I'm sorry, but there's no mistake, you did it. And it's hard to hear. But so we want to know, how did that happen? Because it's only in knowing what caused this that we can prevent it from happening again. So that's figuring out the metaphysics as opposed to the mathematics. We look at the metaphysics of how did it. And when we're ready to take an action, very important, we have to think, what is the potential effect of this cause that I'm about to put into action? I am so happy that I am aware of the fact that I have a lower human consciousness and I have higher consciousness, and I can turn up higher before I take that action. I may not be where I want to be, but I am so glad I am not where I used to be. because when I think of some of the decisions I made, they were totally made at the human level. Now I know better. I know enough to look for the causes to the effects that I'm experiencing, and the effects that I want to get, the results I want to get from an action I'm taking. There's a great book. You should write it down and see if you can find it. The copy I had, I wish I knew where it ever went, but it was a little tiny book about that big, you know, the kind you get at the grocery checkout. And it was called There Are No Bad Dogs. And it was about, you know, if you want your dog to come to you, you don't say, get over here right now. You go, come on over here, Jamila. Get over here. That was my dog's name. Come over here, Jamila. You want him to come, because no one's going to come if you're yelling at them to get over here right now. Well, they may come, but they're going to shut the door on even listening to you as they do that. So that really hit home one day. This was so many years ago. There was one of those Sandra Dee, Bobby Darin movies. I don't know if you can find it, but it would be worth a look. And it's called If a Man Answers. And it was about a young lady who got married, and her mother gave her as a wedding gift no bad dogs as a gift. And she goes, what do I want with that? And then it showed how it worked in her marriage. And it's really cute. So if you want better results, take better action. And if you're wondering why something keeps happening to you, if you're wondering why you're not getting the results you want in your life, consider the possibility you're not going about it the right way. Lift up your instead of the reaction of the human part, go to the response of the spiritual part. So something happened yesterday, and I don't want you to misunderstand what I'm saying, because I try to keep I try to block these visits from politics. But what happened yesterday, it's going to sound political, but it is not meant political at all, okay? Can you get that? I'm talking cause and effect, will, free will, willingness, and being willful right now, okay? So I hope you can wrap your mind around that. There's all over the news now that yesterday the vice president went to the Mayo Clinic to visit some of the people that are in the hospital there that have COVID-19. And he did not wear a mask. It is the requirement of the Mayo Clinic that everyone wears masks. Well, he said he wanted to be able to look at the people in the eye and thank them for, thank the medical staff for what they're going through, and greeting the people and give them his some compassion and, wish them well. Well, first of all, you can definitely look someone in the eye with a face mask on. If you don't, you're wearing the face mask wrong. Just, But here's the thing. You see, first of all, let's look at the cause and effect. Everyone at the hospital was protecting themselves. Why were they protecting themselves? Because of the science. The best information we have says protect yourself by wearing a mask. Okay? So, by not wearing a mask, he was risking his own health. But it's not just about that. First of all, he was counting on the Mayo Clinic and everybody there to keep him healthy. In other words, they had their masks on, they had their shields, the patients had their masks on, but still, we have a responsibility not just to ourselves, but to the greater whole. So, if he should contract the disease, he can bring it back to the office, to his home. He can bring it to anywhere. He can cause healthcare workers to have to go into work and be exposed. He can cause his children, grandchildren, wife, all to get sick. So you see, the decisions we make don't affect just us. We are a part of a greater whole. So that is a part of it. If we think that we are entitled, if we think that we are privileged, whether it's by position, color, title, anything like that, that is coming from human consciousness. Now, on the other hand, even though it was the rule at the Mayo Clinic, everyone is to wear a mask, nobody stood and said, you want in, you wear a mask. That's one of the problems we have, is that people just stand by while things that shouldn't happen. You might know somebody, most people know somebody, I don't know if it applies anymore because I think we might be past that a lot, but people who, people who cheat on their taxes, cheat on their mates, and the steel cable is what I was originally thinking of, but I don't know how popular cable is anymore. So we all know people who do things. And sometimes that person that is doing something wrong is ourself. My life turned on a dime one day when I was in a store. This is back decades ago when I had a very salty vocabulary. And a woman in a store had the courage to say, you're a really nice lady. Love when you come here. You're very interesting. She said, but when you use that kind of language, it takes your intelligence away. Think about it. She spoke truth to me. And she changed my life that day. I'm not going to say that a colorful little tidbit never gets out of my mouth, because it does. And I'm smart enough to catch it and apologize to whoever was in line of hearing it. Because it does take away your intelligence. And if you don't want to consider the possibility what I'm saying is true, that's okay. It's a cause sent forth. Just know there are effects to that cause. So, I invite you to have the courage to stand up for truth when you have to. You can speak your truth. Just remember to speak it with love and respect. You cannot change someone else's will. You can surrender your own will to the will of God, to the highest will, to your higher self, however you want to put it. And I encourage you to do that. And I encourage you, as a part of a greater whole, not to be afraid to speak your truth with love. Remember, right in Gethsemane, Jesus said, I don't want to drink from this cup, but your will be done, not mine. Why? Because God's will for us is good and all good. Let's work together. Let's be mutually accountable and collectively responsible for this great new world we're coming into. God bless you. Have a great day, and thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.